Hey everyone, it's Tent Guy, Tent Tuesday Tent Talk. That's what it was called. Sorry, I haven't done this in a while. It's hard to get guests, but today we have Jim from Rental Recipe, RECIPI, and I'm proud to announce that Recipe is going to be the official sponsor of the Tent Guy channel. You may have seen Jim a bunch of times. He helps get party rental companies started, and if you're already started, he helps you with a whole host of things, but that's not what we're going to really be into today. But feel free to comment questions if you've seen him before on the channel and you want to ask questions. We'll break away from what we're talking and answer those questions. How you doing, Jim?
Good, bud. How are you?
Good. Tired because I'm waking up early in the morning now and working out, which is kind of something we were talking about, kind of like working on your business. Even if you in the text message like working out, and that is something that's working on your business because we're very physical.
Yeah, smooth segue too.
Yeah.
So that I think that's sort of the theme for what I was hoping to discuss today. So we help grow already existing rental businesses and launch new rental businesses. And one kind of theme that's starting to make itself clear, or something that I see over and over again, is this like, okay, I have a website, now what? Or even if I'm running my business, we're kind of just at the mercy of the trade winds. Some years are great, some years are bad. So this topic I want to spend time on, like, what are some of those, like, almost like your daily fitness routine, those things you can do to be more proactive and make more money with your rental business.
Right. All right. So, what are they?
Yeah. So, the kind of starter kit, or like the path I try to put people on, is, so you're thinking about starting a business, you make the investment in your website, and for the first couple of months to maybe even, years, your SEO hasn't really kicked in yet. So your site is just, it's a tree in the forest, right? Your site is nowhere on Google. So first and foremost, it's an easy one. It's kind of trite. Everybody talks about it, but you have to do it. Online reviews. So the Google reviews sit inside of the Google map, which sits at the top of a Google search. So that's kind of your best hack, your best, most expedited way to get more visibility from a Google search. Google loves to show that map. If we can start to get reviews, that'll help you bridge the gap until your website starts to rank organically in SEO.
Right.
So that's thing one, kind of an obvious one, but people still need to hear it.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're obviously getting some customers, so you got to kind of get on them to do a review, because most of the time you're only getting the bad reviews. The good customers, just they don't go and leave one unless you kind of press them. It helps when I say, hey, do you have a business? If I can kind of tell that they have a business, like, what's your business? And they say, it's like, oh, I'm going to go on and review you because you're a good customer, but I'm going to review you as if I was your business. And they're like, oh, that's really great. And then you ask for them to do it in return, and they do. Others is you can copy, forget how to do it, but you can copy the link to send to them in an email after, and it brings them right there. Yeah.
Google gives you a little, like, quick, short URL. It's something I do every week on Monday or Tuesday, right? So we know, and even if you want to cherry pick, right? If like, I don't know about these two customers, but I'll send this review link to, the other 8 events that I had this weekend. So that's part of my, business, like, workout routine. Every week I send an email saying, hey, if you had a good experience, here's a link to Google reviews, here's Yelp if that's easier. So the review part is nice, but the other helpful part of that piece of communication is if you have any photos from the event, right? All you and I ever get are pictures that we take of a sad, tent that the chairs are still stacked, the linens aren't out. So I position it as thank you, reviews, and pics.
Right.
So that's part of that kind of workout routine that would help all of us.
All right. Have you ever asked or had any of your customers of Recipe ask friends and family to go on and just do reviews?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's sort of socially acceptable for a small business when they're starting. You got to start somewhere, right? If you do a free gig for your aunt and uncle, or you just ask your family and friends for a couple of reviews just to get that thing rolling, and eventually those get limited visibility once the actual real reviews start. So it's sort of a victimless crime.
Right. Well, I mean, me and Justin here, we've done even worse. We posted in Facebook, hey, I had a bad review. Can you guys go give me one on our Facebook groups? And then people go and they do, and then we go back and do theirs. And there's other people who have at times said, hey, let's do a review for review. Put your company in the comments. And then a lot of people go and review that company. And then, everyone's helping each other out. So we've gotten a lot through these Facebook groups. Everyone's kind of helped each other out, like very bad reviews, and get a lot of good ones.
Yeah, your network is that's like the network effect that you offer, is just getting everyone together, and you can flood out some not so great reviews if that comes up.
Yeah, because most of the time the not so great reviews are like, come on, lady, this is all because of your personality. This has nothing to do with, but that's her personality. What do you call them? Sure. Karens? Yeah. All right. So what's some other things? You're in your first few years, your website's not getting up in traffic, and your Google business page is not the first one that's listed just yet.
Yeah. So everyone gets reviews. The next thing is going to sound hacky too, but stick with me. So it's social media. And when everyone thinks of social media, it's like, well, I have to do social media. And it's like, okay, well, why? Or what are you going to post, right? So this isn't just posting for the sake of posting. This is using social media to network. So one of our favorite tactics for my business, I do this. One of my niche rental items that I love is wedding arches and wedding rentals. So I'll use Instagram and I'll search, Boston florists, and I'll connect with a few florists. I'll send them a DM saying, hey, I saw in your photos, it looks like you do weddings. I even saw wedding arches and a handful of these. I'd be thrilled to do the arches. You do the flowers, and, we kind of scratch each other's backs. And that's, it sounds so obvious, but nobody really does it. And it's, if you had 3 florists sending you 15 gigs a year, that's a business in and of itself, where you wouldn't even have to rely on getting leads from brides, from the end customer, right? If you just had those referring partners. So when people say social media, it's like, well, no one wants to see your post about like Happy Friday or, the normal nonsense. Let's do it with a purpose. Let's find, use hashtags, find people who would be relevant partners, make an introduction, and see what we can do together. And that's resulted in real dollars for my business. So that's a big one, right? Even if you have a new product, right? If you're an already existing rental business, but you've added, you just made the big investment and you added Shivari chairs, right? So let's reach out to 5 hotel, or wedding venues or hotels in the area, and, make an introduction, and at least you now have a reason to reach out, right? I'm reaching out because we just got these beautiful chairs. We're one of the only one of the only companies in the area who has them. I'd be thrilled to be your Shivari chair guy, whatever.
Right. So to boil that down, so social media, there's 2 parts of that. Everyone just kind of thinks when people say social media, it's focusing on the media part. There's the social part where you message them and make a connection. And it's like the new cold call. It's like, and then they can see pictures of you and stuff.
Perfectly said.
How do you feel about LinkedIn?
Yeah, you can use their page. Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, we're a little off, so I'm going to leave pauses between what I ask. How do you feel about LinkedIn?
I service a lower end of the market. I do. My business is called Backyard Tent Rental. I specifically try to be smaller backyard parties. I don't know that LinkedIn is as well trafficked or as helpful as Instagram, right? Because with Instagram, not only can I find, I'll use the Boston florist example, but I can look through their photos and try to make some sort of connection, right? Oh, hey, you work at so-and-so at the Brookline Botanical Garden. We work there all the time. Let's, so I don't hate it, but I haven't had much, much success with LinkedIn.
Right. I think it's good for business to business, where it's like you find someone who's, say, the event organizer at a place, and then it shows you all their connections, and then they're connected to a florist, and they're connected to this and that, and then you can message all of those people and start finding that network of people that are in that same industry really easily.
And I'm glad you said that too, because one of my notes I scribbled down was there's a tool called Alignable, if you're familiar.
I've heard of it, haven't explored it. Oh, there we go. What about this new Alignable?
Wow. Odd timing. Yeah. So this was actually founded by a guy I used to work with in a previous life when I worked in software. And it's gotten to be a pretty, a pretty well trafficked tool, but it's basically similar to what we're saying now, right? I post my business. I say, hey, I'm a tent rental business in Boston, and I can start to connect with, the venues, the florists, so it's a LinkedIn social networking type site for small business. So I love that tool.
That's cool. So is it like a social media app?
Yeah, totally free. You're using it to basically just link up with other small businesses. It's definitely small business focused versus, it's not for like personalities. You wouldn't have a page. Your business would have a page.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I'll check it out. Let's see. We just got a question unrelated. How many wedding arches do you own, and is it a good moneymaker?
I own, let's see, probably 8. It's a combination of arches and huppas. And the way I try to explain it is it's not going to, you're not going to make 6 figures doing wedding arches, but I enjoy doing it. It's very profitable. It's a one-man job. It's an easy product or service to target. And I see the questions coming in. If it helps, so my wedding arch site is called mywedingarch.com.
There you go.
If you want to throw that up in the notes or whatever. But realistically, we just sort of play the hits. I've got like a traditional white arch. We do birch because we're in New England. Nothing out of the ordinary. But it's a great business. I do arches or huppas for, $200-$300 for a wedding arch with delivery, all the way up to like $600-$700 for a huppa that, you can charge based on requirements if you have to put it up and take it down same day. So it is nichey, but it's a nice item.
No, it's cool. And it's also like you can do it as a side hustle. Like you got your normal job. You don't need the full tents and everything. You could just do that you do the chairs with it too sometimes, right?
Sometimes. So yeah. I'll shamelessly plug. So our company Recepi, one of our favorite concepts to help people start with, right? Because everyone in their mind goes right to tent rentals when they think of rental businesses. And I say, all right, let's consider the whole rental spectrum, right? And tent rental is kind of on the far end of the spectrum in terms of, initial investment and logistics and labor and liability. On the far end, on the other end of the spectrum is something like wedding arches. And we've got a handful of these. I've got, actually Amy from Ontario, Canada, who's probably watching us now. Amy from Green Valley Event Rentals, who's one of our customers. But we've helped people start, we're starting with wedding arches, and then we can kind of, be strategic about the next rental items, right? Well, do we add chairs? Do we add decor? Do we add dance floors? So it's a great core business to start that's very side hustleable.
Right. We got a question. What's a hoopa? It's a hoop. Hoopa.
CHUPPAH or CHUPPA. A huppah is it's a large wedding arch traditionally used for Jewish weddings.
Right. Yeah, and they need it. They need it not to be covered. Right.
Yeah, exactly. So huppah literally means canopy. It's supposed to be symbolic of like starting a new house, right? So that's what Jewish folks get married under traditionally. So for most weddings, a wedding arch is sort of an optional. Hey, it's nice to have. No one needs. For a lot of Jewish weddings, it's sort of a requirement. It's part of the ceremony. So it's a great rental item if you live in an area with a healthy Jewish population, for sure.
Right. All right. So we got off track. Let's get back on track. What are some other things you advise to be working on your business consistently?
Yeah. So just took some notes. So an obvious one that I see very large businesses not doing, and it's you get an inquiry, right? Somebody sends you an email or calls you, and you just treat them like anybody else without realizing that the email address is, at Longwood event venue, or without noticing that they're not the bride or they're not the end customer, they're the venue, and let's treat them differently, right? Like, hey, yeah, I'm happy to do a dance floor for you, right? For this event, the price is X. Let's talk more generally. How often do you need dance floors? I'd be thrilled to be your dance floor guy. And now that's kind of your Trojan horse into repeat events, right? So just being aware of like who's on the other end of that inquiry, and can we make them? Can we stretch that from a $900 dance floor to a $30,000 a year relationship where we're there 10, 12 times a year?
Right. Yeah, we've definitely made that mistake a few times, just sending out the quote. But one recent one I noticed when it went out, I was like, what, do they own a venue? And he's like, my office guy was like, oh, they're starting one. This will be their first event for their friends. And I was like, all right. So I called him up and I was like, hey, let me come out and see your place. I'd just like to see these new barn venues, and then we can see what we can do together. So I went out, visited it, looked at it, gave her suggestions, and then now probably going to be she's going to refer everyone to me, basically.
Beautiful. Yeah.
So the social media cold calling, what about just regular plain old cold calling and dropping in?
Yeah. So that was another note. Just old fashioned networking, right? It's not my favorite thing in the world to do, but realistically, if we're using that fitness analogy, like, can you do 3 calls a day? Right. This week, I'm going to focus on restaurants, or this week I'm going to focus on golf courses, whatever. And can you make 3 calls a day, 10 calls a week, and certainly can't hurt.
Right. And then don't be afraid of the little places either. Like, I didn't cold call this person, but somehow I met her out in the real world, and she just owns a little salon, and she consistently rents things for small events at her place. And normally I would be like, those events suck. I don't want to go deliver there. But we still do them because they're at least within the circle of where we are that day. But then she starts renting stuff for her house for bigger parties. So those little shops, hair salons, nail salons, little dance studios kind of things, they're not going to be great giant orders, but you'll probably get more to come from it.
And it's easier, right? If you already know the venue, you know where you're going, you know the contact, you know that they're cool with dropping off, like I'd much rather work for venues and people I already know than go and do that new venue for the first time, right? Where you gotta carve out an extra hour because You don't know where you're going. You don't know where the contact person is. So that like previous existing relationship business is so easy.
I got a cold call story. A lot of you guys probably have heard it before in the past, but my biggest customer currently is a caterer. He'll spend about $100,000 with us doing the catering tents, dishes, equipment, and whatever. I literally called him or emailed his company once a month for several years just to let him know I exist. Never got a response. Then one day, the company he was using set up a really nasty tent. He wanted me to come save it. I couldn't save it because actually we had just used all our tent blitz the day before on our own tent, so I didn't have any blitz to spray the tent. Tent blitz, everyone, is something that just magically gets rid of mildew. And I said, hey, you won't have this problem again if you use us. And he completely switched over to us. He phased that other guy out. He still let him have the events that were on the books. He hasn't used the other guy. And for the past 4, 5, 6 years now, I think, every single year, we're making $100,000 off of him because beautiful. I didn't stop.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, you get cold calling and emailing or social media DMing some of these people. You might not get anything, but just keep going because there's going to be a day that they're going to need you and you're going to still be in their memory. They're like, oh, that person is in my DMs. Let me see what they got.
Yep. And along the same lines as just those one-to-one emails, just good business practice in general is, my background in software, I worked for a company called Constant Contact. That was it was an email marketing platform for small businesses. And this is something that most rental guys don't do. Everyone's trying to chase the next new customer without realizing that your best source of business arguably is from your already existing customers. So I use email marketing. You don't have to overdo it, right? I send 2 emails a year. I send one in like February saying, listen, all of our May, June, August, September dates are going to book up. We'd rather work for you than for a stranger. So if you have a party, if you have an event in mind or have a relative who's doing anything, get in touch now and let's book that date now, right? Because the worst thing is when one of your favorite customers asks you to do work for them, but you've been sold out for 2 months.
Right. Yeah.
Much rather work for this guy than whoever this new person is who I took on. So again, it sounds so obvious, but you're creating a list somewhere of your customers, or whether it's in a spreadsheet or your rental management software or whatever. You have a list. Use it.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely good advice. We got a good question here about Recepi, your business. I love the arch idea. It's awesome. I understand from previous live podcasts that you like to nail backyard events. Did you move on to a different clientele, different company, or they corrected themselves, or same company?
Did I move on?
Do you have large rental companies that you do work for, medium-sized, and not just backyard?
Basically. Oh, sure. So I guess I'll separate. So my career or my day job is I own a backyard tent rental. That's, small niche rental business. I also do the wedding arch thing on the side. So that's my rental business. That's my day to day. During the winter, and just as I had enough guys in my network sort of ask for help. So we started this other business called Rental Recipe, where we help rental businesses grow with marketing. So I don't know if whoever the person was that asked the question, Recipe serves, we've got some clients that do over 6 million, over 10 million. For my own business, I stay in my small backyard niche. And then once that wedding arch thing got so popular, I carved that out and made it its own website. So hopefully that covers that.
Right. I may have been misunderstanding her, but that's what I took the question as. What does Recipe do? Not just not just nail down companies who want to do backyard weddings, but any size company.
No, yeah, we've got my most recent client is a buddy of mine who's also probably watching. So hey, Derek, try to help people just with that entrepreneurial spirit as it pertains to rentals. So my buddy Derek just started North Shore Dance Floor. He's just starting with dance floors, right? Pick one item and start there and hammer that niche. And he's going to do, he'll do dance floors for me when, if I'm short on equipment. And he's been up for a couple of weeks and just booked his first gig. So again, I guess think about that spectrum, right? There's big, your type of tent rental business on one end of the spectrum, all the way out to just pick one item and hammer it. And I guess we could try to throw it up in the notes, or if anybody who's listening can check this out on their own. Mike's Dance Floors. They're in Houston. They're not a client of mine. I'm just fascinated by this business because this guy's got 2 locations. He's got a really nice business, and for the most part, that's his product. He does dance floors.
Does he do the vinyl on them, or he just does regular dance floors?
Now it's evolved, right? So now he's doing staging and does the dance floor with vinyl and the projecting light on. So yeah, all that stuff. But at its core, it was a one product rental business, which I love.
Right. Yeah, I know a company in a big city. I forget which one. All they do is dance floors, and they have a commercial vinyl printing machine because every dance floor they send out gets vinyled. And they got like 20, 30 guys working for them. And you would just think all they're doing is dance floor. All they're doing is dance floor, but they're doing a whole crap ton of it and at really high costs.
And it's easier to do one thing really well than as you know, what you and I have to do, which is tents, tables, chairs, lights, linens, dance floor. There's a lot of value in finding that one niche and hammering it.
Yeah, that's why I scaled back a lot. I got rid of Chiavari chairs. I got rid of staging. I got rid of stuff that was like the higher end items, but they're not going out all the time. And I was like, dude, I make most of my money from these 40 wides and these white chairs, and then also these fruitwood chairs because of my location. I just focus on that. They go out consistently every single weekend. Let's forget this other stuff that people are complaining about, that it's too expensive and they just sit in a semi-trailer.
And that's the death march for most rental businesses, is chasing. I got to get, now this one wants silver Chiavari chairs, and now this one wants, dark resin chair, and you're just chasing, so now you end up with a warehouse filled with stuff that collects dust.
Right.
Yep.
There are some companies that can do that though. There's like the high-end companies where everything is really priced high. Someone was explaining it to me earlier that the prices are so high because the customer's paying for it to sit there because it's such an exclusive item.
Yeah, they're paying for the right to have one place that will do, clear acrylic chairs with periwinkle linens and gold plates, like just one behemoth that has all this stuff. So yeah, you're paying a premium because, you'd have to chase down 3 companies normally to piece that together.
Right. All right. What else you got in your notes?
So I just watched some other YouTube channel that I love, and the guy had an interesting little analogy that I'm trying to kind of shoehorn into our conversation. And it was a documentary about Coca-Cola saying that they get their caffeine. This might have been in the beginning. This might not be the case now, but the source of their caffeine was discarded tea leaves from a gigantic tea manufacturer, right? And I just thought that was so. It was so helpful that like even a company Coca-Cola's size realizes like, don't waste. Like you can use the scraps of another business to make a really amazing business. And that's all the stuff we're talking about now. Like you don't have to go chase the next new customer if you mine your own data, right? Use your own customer list. You don't have to pay somebody to do SEO if you are proactive about asking for reviews. You don't have to run Google ads if you have a website that actually has good content so it's like even a company the size of Coca-Cola realizes that there's gold sitting on on the floor somewhere else that we can use to make our product. Right. So I just thought that was, everyone just chases the next new piece of business. And, in reality, you can probably make a healthy business doing the things we're saying, right? Make some connections, use your customers for referrals, for repeat business. And that's your core, right? If every year for your business, or, I won't say yours, but let's say we've got somebody doing, $500,000 a year, and every single year they have to get that $500,000 worth of business purely from scratch. How much more difficult that is versus, I know on that $500,000, realistically 400,000, I already know where it's coming from.
Right. Yeah. My friend who's got last year he made $10 million. He talks every time we have a conversation and we talk about like, so what's your year looking like? He's like, well, I know I got 200,000 from these colleges. I know I got, $500,000 from these and this and that. So every year he knows he has this. And then the other stuff is just the big weddings and stuff that come in. So,
yeah. And then one other kind of, sort of theme I just wanted to throw into this was, I love the concept of like the Trojan horse, right? So don't just be an order taker, right? If somebody asks you for, hey, I need to rent, I'll just use the dance floor example again. I need to rent a dance floor. Okay, great. Here's the price for the dance. Use that one product as a Trojan horse into selling all the other stuff, right? Okay, so you're having some sort of social event with dancing. Do we want to do high top cocktail tables? Those high tops need linens. Do we need glassware? Do we need, so don't just be an order taker, right? When somebody comes to you with an inquiry, let's use that. Let's dig a little deeper, right? And use that one product as a Trojan horse into, it's basically just cross-selling or upselling. But that one, it's like, well, anyone can pick up the phone and process an order, but like, let's just pause for a second and try to squeeze more juice out of the grape.
Right. Because we know the things that events need. Sometimes they don't think about it. Like, we try to add garbage cans to every order, and it's not a lot.
Perfect.
But they just sit up in the back of the truck. We try to add a butt depot, and I laugh when they say, "Oh, people aren't going to smoke." Yeah, they are. But the cocktail one is the one that we get pretty much every single time the dance floor is going out. We say you're going to want at least 4 cocktail tables. People are going to put their drinks down and go dancing. People are going to hang out around it. And then when we do graduations, we try to get at least 2 cocktail tables out with it, because we say every time I throw a party, I throw the cocktail tables out, and that's where everyone hangs out. So you're going to want them hanging outside your tent. Upsells, yeah. Games. It's graduation party comes through.
Yep.
Try to add 3 games on that.
Yeah. So I saw the woman, Amy, that I referenced sent a little note or checked in, but that was one of the conversations that we were having is, let's not just guess and try to find our way. Let's put ourselves out with some core items, and then let's read and react to what people need. And let's let the market tell us kind of what our next products or services should be. So I like that. I don't like the guys who are like, I think I got to go out and buy 200 Fruitwood chairs. Don't guess, right? Like, be opportunistic. When somebody calls and asks, if you have a venue where you're there every week, have that conversation. Hey, I do basic folding chairs for you. You want to do something nicer together? We could do this, right? So be opportunistic, use your relationships, use your data, rather than just, slapping it out there and hoping it works.
Right. Use your data. There's a piece of data that doesn't get recorded by the rental programs, is when people call for things. Someone just called me for a podium too. I know that they didn't end up renting $7,000 worth of stuff from someone else, though. All I needed was the podium. But yeah, that sucks.
Wow.
They didn't have the podium. They sent them to somewhere else. Had $7,000 missed out. But so right next to the computer, we have a blank sheet of paper. with lines on it. Someone calls for a podium. We don't have it. We write it down and start keeping a tally. And then when it gets to 10 things, it's like, if I buy it, it'll go out and it'll pay for itself. So that's what we do.
Love it.
So yeah, sounds like you might need to buy a podium. They're not too expensive.
Yeah, in my world, that was my when I was doing outdoor weddings, right? So I'm doing a wedding arch and 100 chairs. Well, what else, right? Well, what else kind of typically happens at an outdoor ceremony? Microphone and speaker.
Right.
Doesn't have to be the most professional thing in the world, just microphone and speaker, and that's another, $200 add-on. So now we've made a $900 gig and $1,100 gig.
Right. We got an unrelated question. Another question: Deposits should go to a different account just for deposits. No, I just mix them in. If you're scared of it that someone might cancel and you want to keep that money in reserve, then sure, go ahead. But a lot of rental companies make it through the winter on their deposits, which you should try to plan ahead for. But deposits certainly help getting through the winter months.
Well, and I'll piggyback on that. That was another reason for sending that email in February, right? Let's book your gig now. Great. All right. Well, now that your schedule is filling up, but here come the deposits, and helps with the cash flow and blah, blah, blah.
Right. Don't do, I need money. Let me give a 25% discount to anyone who books in February, March, because you're just gonna hate it later. You'll be able to make it through the slow months. Just get the normal deposits. Don't, because you start discounting, then the next person in April is going to be like, I want that 25% discount too.
Right.
And then this is not really, working on your business, but when you text me, I saw the word working out, and I always thought working out was, good thing for this business because we're carrying heavy things. I used to in the gym carry 50-pound weights just across the gym, just holding them so that when summer came, I could carry those 8-foot tables, 2 of them at a time, and be ready for it. Working out will it'll make life go faster too because you're stronger.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't want to be everybody's a little rusty in like mid-April, right before you're in like tent shape.
Yeah, when we used to carry cocktail tables, face to face, two in each hand, the beginning of the summer, they're slipping because you don't have that strength in your hands, and at the end of the summer, you got them. Another thing I want to talk about working on your business on a day-to-day basis. Whatever you're currently doing, if you're just cleaning up the warehouse or you're just trying to find storage for things, just always be thinking like, how can I do this faster? Because if you can do it faster, then you have more time for other things or more time to fit in more jobs. So analyze every step of the way and get rid of any extra steps. Get some sort of organizing system that works for you, so that you don't have to be guessing when you're looking at things or your employees guessing. And the faster you can be, the more profit you're going to make. And you don't necessarily have to work any harder. You're just making more profit from what you already have.
Yeah, I primarily employ high school and college kids. Nice kids, but it's a summer job for them. They're sort of aloof. They're sort of, head in the clouds. But the message I pound in is don't go back to the truck empty-handed, right? Yeah. And that doesn't mean that just literally, right? That's not just literally don't go back. It's, hey, if you're going bring something with you, right? If we're going to be making a million trips back and forth, always be bringing something, right? And I joke, I say it to my wife, like, hey, if we're on the couch, hey, if you're going out to the kitchen, like, don't go to the truck empty-handed.
Yeah, we do that. I basically started it from day one. If you're going to the truck to grab your drink, bring something. And then when you grab your drink, you're bringing something back as well. We also have this thing we call people double stuffers, and we'll make fun of them. We call it double stuff if you're moving things twice. Like you're moving something to the end of the truck and then it's just in the way and you got to move it, or you're moving something to the site and you don't know where the tent's going. And now you got to move all that because the customer said the tent's going right there. Anything that needs to be moved twice, we just yell at you and call you a double stuffer. and then it spilled over. Everyone's using it. My friend was just describing his job. He puts boxes in semi trucks, and he's like, it's all filled with double stuffers. all we're doing is double stuffing all day. This is a good one.
It adds up, right? If you're like, if I'm running 5 guys with me, it's, we're $100 an hour. It adds up.
Yeah. This is a good one. I don't know if I have that video. I have a video of a guy who's coming on to talk about selling your event rental company in the future. And on my other channel, I run the YouTube channel now, just talking to general businesses. I had a guy on talking about selling any business. So I'm going to lead into that. Are you able to let your company run without you for a week or 2 or even a month? And if so, is that your goal? I think I'm good for a week. I got to get the office guy up a little more on. I do all the scheduling. He doesn't know anything around. He just, Google Maps it. I can just look at all the paperwork for the week and make circles of loops and just do that real quick. So I could be good for a week. What about you?
No. Right now, I've kind of strategically, I try to keep this small and profitable. I'm basically the engine of the business. What I can do and what anybody out there could do, if you can't, right? The hallmark of a good business is if you can remove yourself from the equation and the business continues to move on. So I realize there's tons of value in that. But in the interim, there are chunks that I can certainly excuse myself from. There's no reason I should be there for takedowns, right? The risk is that we've already pounded the stakes. We've already met the customer. The event's over. So it's not necessarily an all or nothing thing, right? Maybe I can't remove myself from everything for 2 weeks, but I can certainly get myself, my Monday, Tuesday back.
Right. That's cool. Yeah. You can start taking yourself out of things. So these 2 guys who specialize in selling businesses, their number one advice so you can get the max amount for your business is to get it to a point where your business doesn't necessarily need you. Someone who's coming in and buying a full business wants that phrase turnkey. They want to come in and they can spend 40 hours a week, but they don't want to spend 40, 60, 80 hours a week actually being out there doing the plumbing or the landscaping or the setting up the tents. They want to come in and just work in the business or work on the business, not in the business. Ideally, they'd like to maybe only put 8 hours a week into it. Ideally, the business can run itself pretty much without the owner being there. And then once you're at that point, you can get top dollar for your business. Like I just went out to dinner with my mom's friends. Their businesses, they say valued at $8 million and they're trying to sell it. And I was like, well, when you sell it, and the 2 dudes who run it leave, can it run itself? And like, oh no. Right. I'm like, well, then it's not worth 8 million. It's worth it's worth like 1 million, maybe. I don't know. I don't even know how to value it. If someone's not going to give you $8 million to come in and have to build up from the ground up with people.
Yeah. If you are the secret sauce that makes the whole thing run, then realistically, all they're buying is equipment.
Right. And that's why a lot of times rental companies go to auction, because a new owner's got to come in and be able just to manage, not run.
On that same note, so through my recipe business, I talk to rental businesses all the time, and I'll talk to guys, the classic guy who's in his 50s or 60s. He's can't get out of the business because it's good money, but he's thinking about selling. So one of the things I implore these guys to do is, hey, I looked, your website's 10 years old. You definitely don't have analytics on the site. So you fast forward to when you're going to sell this business and the potential buyers ask you, well, how much demand do you have? And you say like a ton. Like that needs to be quantifiable. Right? At the very least, we want to have Google Analytics on the website so you can just point to a number. You don't have to understand it. You don't have to go in. I'm not trying to make people, web analytics experts, but just put that on the site. Instrument the site with this stuff. So when push comes to shove, you have a number you can point to and you can say, my site gets 27,000 visitors a year. Right? And that's going to help with that business valuation when the time does come.
Right. All right. Any last thoughts? Any last tips?
This is great, man. I'll happily cover more stuff another time. But you and I were talking about kind of that, like, what's that like every week homework or that gym routine or, the stuff that you have to do to make this thing run. And I think we covered a bunch of that. So this was awesome.
Right. And everyone don't be worried about you make a cold call or a cold DM on social media and no one gets back to you. Just keep doing it. Keep doing it. I got a new patron yesterday, and I just talked to her today. She has a horse trailer bar, and we were talking about that today, about DMing all these people, calling these people, and then they keep doing it. And it'll pay off later. And sometimes, a lot of times, it's going to pay off right then and there. They're going to be like, "Oh, this is great. Yeah, I'll add you or I'll refer you." Other times, it's not going to pay off until they need you. But, all right, Jim. Thank you, everyone. Go check out recipe.com. That's RECIPI.com. Recipe helps start new businesses and helps grow existing businesses. Wait, last question. So they're putting emojis in.
All right.
They were like, last question, and pointed up. I have another good question. Do you make your employees sign any type of contract so they don't go open a company or steal your customers? I'm going to take this one first. No. I tell my employees, like, this is where I buy tents. This is how much a tent is. You want to buy a tent? One of my employees last year bought a tent. And when we were out of that size, we rented it out and I subbed it through him and we paid him for it. I did make him charge me $50 less than we were renting it for. And also a few times we're just like, the person's calling literally 5 o'clock at Friday. I'm like, we don't have it, but my employee just bought a brand new one. Here you go. I got a 15-year-old kid working for me. He's going to buy a tent too. I think there's more than enough tent jobs out there that my employees can make. They've been going to school for the past 4 years, basically, at my company. Let them use that knowledge that they got and improve their life a little bit. Yeah.
100% the same. I try to encourage people to get into the business, right? The more allies you have, the better. It sounds like you treat your guys the same way. My guys aren't laborers, right? I'm trying to teach them about the rental business, about business in general. So I'm fully with you. If your business can't survive one person buying a piece of equipment and trying to moonlight, then it feels like it might be on shaky foundation.
Yeah, that's a good point. My friend's company, he hired some people that left another company that had signed contracts. And he had to get into 2 lawsuits to keep them. And the other company just ends up looking like dicks. Like, what are you gonna do? Go after someone? Like,
yeah,
it's not worth it.
Yeah, I'm part of the way I try to manage my life is like, I never want to see the inside of a courtroom for a business. All good,
Right.
Signing contracts or making employees sign non-competes. It's, all good. Simple is always best.
Right. All right, guys. Thank you for joining tonight, Jim. Thank you again. I'm sure we'll have you on again.
Thank you, bud.
All right, man. Have a good one.
Thanks, guys.